All systems go. It is Friday. I'm paddling extra fast in the little rowboat in front of the pirate ship. I am on a mission. I am scouting. At least that's what I see. Hello and welcome back, my friends. Artist Journal, March 14th, 2025. Singing into my computer like there is no tomorrow. Welcome back. My name's Adrian Pocobelli. Is it the long version? It is. That's hilarious. I could keep talking here for another, minute and a half, but I won't. Okay, anyways, let's get into it. That is hilarious. I will hit the volume slowly so we can gently transition over to this beautiful work by Scra. I feel like we've seen it before, but it was released, so it feels official again, and it is worth revisiting if, in fact, I'm not exactly sure if we've seen it. Sometimes Scra releases work on X ahead of time, but it is a work of note. Another day, another masterpiece, I said to myself earlier this morning. Beautiful, beautiful work here. Now, this is a pastiche. It was just released. I picked one up, only 45 cents. This beautiful, beautiful pastiche of Fragonard's The Happy Accidents of the Swing, and here's another version. I mean, for those skeptics of AI, it's pretty awesome what we're getting here, because let me show you the original. So it's always a shame how Wikipedia wants to put that big overlay. So this is the original. So we go here. See how quite distant it is. Actually, interestingly, if Scra hadn't said this is Fragonard's Happy Accidents of the Swing, would you have identified it? Very interesting question, to a certain degree. So quite interesting. And where's this figure? Again, sometimes with pastiche, it's a different composition. In a sense, that figure that was at the bottom, this one here, this guy, if this isn't, I'm almost like, is this the version that Scra is talking about? I'm pretty sure it is. And here's just another version of it, which is a whole other huge story. That's what my related images is about. I have a series I've been working on for years. I'm reopening a lot of boxes wonderfully. It's very fun. But you see the impact, not to get just a quick sidetrack, you see the impact of photography on our understanding of the history of art. It's shocking, dare I say, which is, and then you go and see the real painting and you'll be like, oh, I thought it would look like this, and maybe it looks more like that. It's a different painting, interestingly. This is a copy. Well, it's because it actually is a different painting. This is a copy of The Swing from Musée Lambinet. So maybe that answers our question, but let me actually just very quickly here, The Swing Fragonard. Let's see if that gives us still what I'm discussing here. So here, maybe this is a good example. Here, you see the Fragonard, it's like a darker blue. It's kind of more blue. Here, it's more green, shall we say. And then here, we have Fragonard. So you see what I'm saying. So the thesis still holds in real time here. And then here it is. And then you see how small it is, which is another interesting thing, because we receive art history, generally speaking, through photography, either through books. I'd say more often now, through the screen, and we'll just get kind of a decontextualized image, interestingly. And so it's always kind of interesting. It's like, oh, well, maybe we don't even know the size of these images. It could be tiny, this Fragonard, but it's probably a medium-sized painting, and these are probably large paintings, is what I would guess, simply based on the amount of detail in here. Anyways, let's go back to Scra. So Scra did a couple of versions, releasing one on Object, on Tezos, Stable Diffusion. So using Scra's, techniques here, as we see, and again, we see the textures here. It almost looks like a textile, right? And you know what? It could be. This looks like you could probably send it off. It looks like a textile. You just see like the waviness here. You could probably send this off to get printed. And then you could probably do it pretty large too, interestingly. So, and then you have the flowers here. Like if we go back here, again, is this the painting that Scammer is referring to? Fragonard's The Happy Accidents of the Swing. It kind of looks the swing Fragonard, and so isn't it interesting? So a true pastiche here, cropping. And so this is interesting here too. And, you'll see this in the work. You just saw that work briefly. It's kind of interesting when you get these odd little crops here. You see how it's almost like a repeat of the frame is happening underneath here. And doesn't it just add, at least for me, it adds a true, it's kind of one of those irrational elements that just adds another layer of delight, shall we say, to the image. And then we have this interesting purple here too. So we could look endlessly. But another important thing that I think should be mentioned here, which maybe is part of, a major factor that hasn't been discussed, which is the color. The color. And of course, Scammer has mentioned to us in the past this kind of negative, because I've shown a ton of Scammer's work on this show, and I asked out loud, I wonder if Scammer is using AI for the color palette. Scammer replied and said, well, actually, Adrian, I'm doing kind of a negative color palette where I kind of remove I use AI to basically remove certain things. So as far as I remember, right? So if you're wondering how Scammer has this almost preternatural sense of color, he is being aided. But it has to be appreciated that ultimately he is the force that's making this all happen. Without Scammer, there is no image here. So, that also has to be recognized. It needs to be recognized. Here's another version. This is on Rodeo, and again, another one of these rad crops, as you can see here. And again, you see where it's just, pixelation. It's just AI goodness. And here we see, look at how huge this is too. And you see this kind of rough pixels. Look at this, the painterliness, so to speak, the texture, the color. And is that the swing way down here? And again, what's interesting about this? From, I don't know if game theory point of view is the right way of putting this, but from an artist's point of view, let's say you make this image, you use Fragonard's Happy Accidents to get there, which seems to be what happens, but then you end up with something so kind of, is like to the point where you have an image that's unrecognizable from the original. And then perhaps one would be confronted with the question, should I be referring to Fragonard's Happy Accident? And I think Scammer answered rightly by saying yes. And I'm not saying, probably on the moral level, perhaps. Although when it starts getting so far, it's an interesting question. If it's unrecognizable, then, it's just I say that's an open question. If it's unrecognizable, open question. Should it be, if I'm using Fragonard, but maybe you should. I'm not saying a definitive answer either way. But morality aside, I would argue it's the right answer because I believe that adding Fragonard, the reference of Fragonard's Happy Accidents actually turns a pretty attractive AI image in both cases into there's another layer of complexity. There's another conceptual layer that kind of it attaches it to the tradition of this image and to the history of this image. Also, Scammer, has given a couple of pretty interesting, adding to the conversation of Fragonard's swing. And I'm sure other people we saw there was just a copy there at Versailles. There's a whole history of that image. It's a famous image, although I didn't know it off the top of my head, but then once you see it, you recognize it, right? And so I would argue by keeping the reference, it adds to the meaning of the work, and actually in a deep way. It kind of basically turns it from a attractive AI image without much context to part of, you could argue, the history of that image. In a sense, if you were to write a book on Fragonard's The Swing, and you had to write 300 pages, well, I think, you'd probably want to come to, here's an AI version of The Swing by this artist called Scra, and it's pretty persuasive. Like, to me, it's a persuasive enough image to add to the conversation on that image and to the history of that image. And in that regard, keeping the reference seems like a good idea. Let's put it at that. So gorgeous works. Now, this is super cheap. Again, 45 Tezos cents. It's an open edition. It's open for another week. So let's see what happens there. But again, the power of AI is quite remarkable here. And Scra just seeming to kind of go from victory to victory there. So isn't this interesting? A different kind of history, an alternate history here provided by Google Images, as you see here. So quite interesting. And as you see here, right, you probably could write a book on this, on the history of this image. Big thank you to Absurd Deity for picking up this work here, the 5 a.m. Club, which I relate to, and so part of the Promoted Stories series here. So big thank you, a 1 of 1 for 75 Tezos. Big thank you to Absurd Deity for picking that up. So much more to come on Tezos. I'm actually quite excited. New series coming down the pipe. Aesthetics arguments. Okay, so last show, Retro Manny, thanks for sharing our collab. To answer your question, the music was by me. That was a tough one. I feel like I can figure that kind of stuff out, so thank you. So Retro Manny did the music on that collab with Limbo. Great show as always. Given the state of crypto right now, I'm finding watching your show more important than ever. It's grounding, keeps the doom and gloom sentiment at bay. It's quite interesting, isn't it? We're going to see more of this. Actually, there's a lot to talk about this episode. There's a lot of commentary in this episode, so we're going to return to that a little bit, because there are big questions that I think are returning to this whole situation here. This crypto scene that we are just kind of necessarily a part of as digital artists. It's quite, again, this forced marriage. Thanks for the comment, Manny. Rosacho, true story about overthinking. I can make artworks for myself pretty quickly now. But when it comes to commissions, I tend to get stuck in analysis paralysis. I actually pretty much avoid. I used to say, commission, sure, just because, hey, I'm an artist, this is good if I'm getting a commission. I'm not 100% against commissions for myself, but I totally agree. In a sense, I'm kind of back to the freedom discussion, which is, again, artists make art for different reasons, and if you have kind of like your locked style and you can just incorporate a commission no problem, then awesome. But sometimes, put it this way, it can often feel like work, a commission, in a way that making art otherwise will not feel like. And all of a sudden you are reducing your freedom. You're being asked to make it a certain way, and then it's like, oh, are they going to like it? And then there's kind of a weird kind of pressure. So I'll just say, I hear you. Let's continue. Even after summarizing the brief to speed things up, I've been applying the same approach I use in design projects to my commission work, making the process more streamlined and efficient. So using design techniques, the same approach to basically I do in design. It helps a little bit, but I still second guess everything. Tweaking the artwork nonstop and obsessing over details only I will probably notice. I really need to rewire my brain. I really need to know your secret. Indeed. We are creatures of habit. And I think it's these neural pathways, the pathways of consciousness. And so it's not easy to make new neural connections. We don't want to do it, but I really need to know your secret. Yeah, I struggle like the rest of us, that's for sure. Anyway, thanks for showcasing my work. You're welcome. It was part of an epic collaborating with 17 other artists, so I believe that was for the Super Mario work. That was a pretty interesting, cool artwork. Thanks for the comment. You're on Yacon. I totally agree with you, Adrian, on the quality-quantity argument. I think the great freedom in digital art is that you can produce as much art as you want, and it doesn't really take up any 3D space, just digital space. It's true. In a sense, your bigger concern is time, not space, interestingly. Although, I guess time is an issue if you make physical art as well. But space is a big issue, too. I have a lot of visual ideas, and often I couldn't really paint or draw them all. Digital tools really give me the freedom to realize a lot more ideas and find a lot more forms that suit my ideas. And in terms of quality, I also think the possibilities of expression and meaning are at least the same, maybe even greater, but certainly more actual. It's quite interesting. I kind of agree with all of this in the sense that I really love being digital. Again, like I've been saying here, the only thing I really want to buy are clothes and technology as far as material goods. Otherwise, I don't even really want the baggage, so to speak. And so digital fits right into that. And to your point, using it is kind of a newer medium, and the tools, it's like this golden age of tools. We're even seeing like where, in a sense, we can build our own tools using AI. So how does, and then there you are, painting and, nothing against this. This is what I did fairly recently, and then you're going to the, Buzners over here, the art supply store, spending €100 and getting some new brushes. And then, you left it out a little too long, or you don't, it's so taxing. And then here we have all the new mediums. So it's just like a win-win-win situation. So totally agree. Thanks for the comment. Scamra, thanks for showing my work. Maybe I could do 3 a day. Well, I'm sure you could. And I think that was kind of tongue-in-cheek here. Scamra probably makes 100 images a day, if I had to guess. I don't know. But very interesting. Let's continue. R. Presti, great show, Adrian. Interesting reflection at the beginning. As Picasso himself said, inspiration exists, but it has to find you working. That's a great quote, isn't it? Inspiration exists, but it has to find you working. In other words, if inspiration comes and you're not working, who cares? Right? Ariel, thanks for the comment. Exactly. Alex May Arts. When an institution runs another Picasso show, I just figure they need to satisfy their visitor numbers for future funding. Yeah, let's continue. Showing little-known artists is a tremendously difficult prospect for smaller galleries, unless you niche down. Art Laboratory Berlin is a good example. I should try. I've never actually heard of Art Laboratory Berlin. Interestingly. I like the speed of the blockchain art scene. Yeah, that's a great point. It suits the way I work. It doesn't need people to tell us what's good or bad to define and reinforce hierarchies, or even be right all the time. It takes guts to put yourself out there and comment on the shimmering zeitgeist, and that's why I'm enjoying this show. The enthusiasm and curiosity is most welcome. Well, I really appreciate that. And what took guts was actually the first shows. But then after the community or people started to basically say, hey, that's awesome, and give me a little like and whatever, then you go, oh, okay, I can do this. And now I think even if 10 people were watching, I would probably do it. I don't know, but I think I would, which is kind of interesting. Maybe I'd streamline it though. And maybe I'd start going on bigger tangents of stuff that has nothing to do with art. But that's not where we are now. So anyways, thank you for the very nice comments. And I agree on the Picasso shows. I mean, I don't roll my eyes physically, but I mentally roll my eyes every time I see, there's a new Picasso show. You just kind of shake your head, and it's almost like a source of humor for me. But here, this is where we're at. Interestingly, this is where we're at, where the disconnect now between the institutions and basically Joe consumer, art consumer, Joe or Jill art consumer, is, to me, it's like going like this. I think, and so anyways, look at how lucky we are. We really are lucky how rich, looking at just this Yuri J here. And here's Yuri J. Anyways, let's continue. Yuri J. comment, last show, thank you everybody for the support. Thank you, Adrian, for highlighting my statement. By the way, my main interest was just getting closer and create a separate piece with each character from the older work. So that is hilarious. So this awesome work of the kitchen, Yuri J is playing with each character. So the frying pan, the pot, and everything. Is that a coq monsieur? I'm not sure. So anyways, just super interesting approach from Yuri J. Awesome to hear from you. Ty May, thank you, Pocobelli, for the wonderful episode. The show has become one of my go-to with my morning coffee, and while creating, still have many to catch up. Indeed. It's a breath of fresh air of staying connected and discovering more prolific art and artists. So really nice to hear from you. Ty May. Where are you from, Ty May? My existence is resistance. That looks, if I had to guess, it's either Japanese or that looks like Korean, doesn't it? Anyway, thank you, Ty. Really great to have you watching. Neural Divine, GM friend, nice show today. Great to hear from you, Neural. Rad artist. Brain Dead, great to hear from you. And I actually found the link. So I actually brought up your work again today. Custom Horror, dropping gold and from the get-go of this episode, just don't overthink. Most are their own worst enemy. Yeah, as I said at that show, if there's one thing I could tell my younger self is, and you know what it is? When you're 20, or at least when I was 20 or 25, even late 20s, early 30s, let's call it late 20s, I didn't think I was good enough. I didn't think I was good enough to make good art. I still needed to prepare and all this sort of thing. I mean, that was probably the underlying, I knew I had the talent, but I didn't feel like I was there yet. So I was just buying time with myself. Making excuses. So in a sense, another way of saying this is don't worry if it sucks. Just start making stuff because, as I always say here, if you hit like a writer's block or an artist's block, just make stuff. Because the first day, just don't worry if it's terrible, because the first day, maybe it is terrible. The second day, it's going to be a little less terrible. The third day, you're like, I'm making a masterpiece here. I'm breaking all the rules and it's going fabulously. It's that fast, I would argue. And okay, let's say it takes you 3 weeks to get there, but there's only one way to to get there. And that's actually to dig. It's actually to do the physical labor. And luckily, another thing that digital art is, it's really easy to do from a physicality point of view. One of the completely understated aspects of making physical art is it's physically draining. Like, it's a lot of work. And then there's a lot of heaviness. And there's a lot of, and then it's a very physical thing. This is another kind of aspect of digital that is completely different from physical, where I can just make my brush really big, go like this, and 80% of the canvas is filled, which is interesting. And what have I done? And compare that to, okay, now do that in physical and see in 4 hours and let's see how that goes. And oh, you made a mess on the floor and your clothes are all dirty and you don't even like how it looks, right? So yeah, thank you, Custom Horror. Miss Freedom, thank you for the comments. In every show, I learn how to greet others in a more positive way and some things about art. So much fun. So thank you for the beautiful comment there and the good vibes, Miss Freedom. Great to have you. Nostalgia Unlimited, great roundup as always. You're welcome. And I think we have a few new artists this episode. I think. I'm always looking and trying to kind of expand the repertoire, so to speak. Skardak, if you're a digital artist, there's never been a better time to experiment. Try new tools, create new tools as well, create smart contracts, test different platforms and chains. There are no rules. You can do whatever you want. The thought leaders that were leading this space years ago are always wrong. And the influencers are, I'm not sure what NPC means. Trust your gut, but probably irrelevant is what I think this might mean. Trust your gut, see what works for you, and never stop promoting your art. And it's remarkable how fast things can happen here. I've seen it over and over where, in a sense, there always is a hunger out there for new art and new ideas, especially ones that work. So, I just completely agree with this comment. Patrick Amadon. I see digital artists in museums on billboards showing in legit galleries, amassing large followings on social. And this, to me, is weirdly becoming the most important thing. These museums, billboards to me is irrelevant. It's nice, but really anybody can get their art on a billboard. It's actually, you could do it in the Berlin public transportation. It's like $30 and you can have your work on a pretty big, space. So billboards, who cares, in my opinion, but nevertheless, showing in legit galleries. And this is interesting. I wonder what galleries Amadon is talking about, but this is, to me, I find in museums that I've attended, it still seems very slow, but maybe Germany is extra slow. But large followings on social, to me, this is there's real power in having a big social following. Because what's kind of interesting about it is if your social following is as big as a museum's, I mean, what does that mean? Right? I mean, it's so, so all to say on a practical, what's the practical, actionable thing to do? What a lot of people do, which is quite smart, is once or twice a day, they put out an image on socials and then just, build, because you will slowly build an audience that way. So first you have to get your work out there. Getting press for their work. Digital art is doing better than ever right now. It's an interesting question. Important to separate that from token prices. So from, let's say, crypto. Yeah, it's an interesting question. Is digital art, I would say from a innovation perspective, without question. I've never been so excited. Again, artists making their own tools and putting it on the Bitcoin blockchain with this kind of compressionist thing. To me, that's science fiction. But we can participate, and it might be around for a very long time. So all to say, interesting comment. This is quite interesting too. So Daniel, who is part of Transient Labs. It's a big day for us at Transient Labs. I'm super excited about our partnership with Super Rare and the Rare Protocol. If you're an artist who is looking to explore and try a new platform, look no further. I'm offering one-of-one tours on our entire ecosystem to all creators. Just comment or DM me. And if you haven't seen the news, so here is the news. Crypto art needs more than marketplaces. It needs an ecosystem. Super Rare times Rare DAO are investing $2.5 million into Transient Labs, not to build just another trading platform, but an actual creative pipeline. Because this is less speculation, more creation onwards. Read more from our co-founders. So it's interesting. I mean, we've been discussing this for, 3/4 of a year, really, since Rodeo and Zora went down this kind of let's turn art into meme coins, trying to really force it into this box, which it didn't really seem to want to go into. So here's also Chris's Stoich. I don't know if we can read all of this, but let's read just a little bit. Most platforms treat art like a casino. This time has come to build what has been missing, an end-to-end network and creative pipeline for artists, not gamblers. So it seems like they're working on something. It's been a tough ride. We just made a big move. We're partnering together. It's kind of short on details here. But it sounds like they're trying to do something. Let's be honest, most platforms right now are optimizing for speculation. We've done and continue to do the opposite together with Super Rare. We're doubling down on artists, collectors, and actual. This isn't bull market hype. It's what So let's see what they do. I don't know what they're going to do. The speculative. Okay, so Rare DAO, $2.5 million. Okay, power artists will power an open discovery and marketplace experience for crypto art. Here's where I start to, because crypto art, that's actually where I start to go. Is it going to be a certain kind of art, or is it going to be all digital art on the blockchain? Not so, but that could just be semantics. Not some. Where were we here? Let me just crypto. Here we go. Not some watered-down Web3 version of an existing Web2 platform, which seems to be referring to Rodeo, but a place where artists at every stage can imagine, create, experiment, and actually get discovered. Because this has been one of the big issues with Super Rare is the curation of artists and kind of a gated, so let's see what they do. And yes, Super Rare's signature curation remains intact, but this joint effort opens the door for more artists to get on the map and eventually showcased on Super Rare itself. This is how we drive real value. So let's see what they do. Like, in a sense, it's short on details, isn't it? But hey, it sounds good to me. Dirk Zero, can we agree that rodeo was not the future of NFT art now? I think that's pretty hilarious. This was also interesting, Macbeth. It's been 84 years, but hey, I'll take it. Thank you, Anon. So it just goes to show you can have work, if I understand the tweet right, maybe a work that was posted a long time ago. All of a sudden, an auction has started. So just goes to show you never know. So congrats to Macbeth. Rob to the Moon, who of course I follow, that is a glitch on X. And thank you for the support. Rob at Tezos now. Yes, Tezos is inclusive of all and makes art accessible to all. That's one of the great things about it. No, you don't have to lower your prices just to sell on Tezos. I'd love to see this misconception go away. It's a feature, though. Like, in a sense, the power of Tezos is the low fees, really. At the end of the day, I mean, that, in a sense, base came later. And then, but Tezos really built a credibility for itself as a kind of art chain, as almost the art chain to a certain degree, or at least a preeminent art chain. I don't know if it depends. Yeah, it's an interesting, I didn't realize, put it this way, but I see this as a feature, not a bug. Like, in a sense, because where are you going to sell, on base even for $2 and feel good about it? But you can sell for $2 on Tezos, and also that's like what, 3 Tezos, and you can feel kind of weirdly good about it. Put out your edition of 10, and people are there, generally speaking. There are the flippers and everything, the speculation, but generally people are there for the art, generally speaking. Even the flippers. Think of Bridget, New York City. Brilliant eye for art, flipper, and that's okay, right? So it's all part of the ecosystem. Michael Nadeau, is anyone safe using DeFi? So just a little foray into crypto here. A user on Uniswap was just sandwich attacked out of $216,000 while simply trying to swap 221,000 USDC to US dollar Tether. So they ended up with $5,000 when they just tried to do a simple swap on Uniswap. Now, I'm sure that was partly their own fault. Mind you, this was a pool that had over $35 million. This is insane. So some bot. So again, and like, I'm kind of back to this, brief commentary here on crypto, is it seems like, I wonder if you're JP Morgan, BlackRock, if they look at this and say, let's let the kids burn out on these meme coins. Let's not go in yet. Like, let's let this thing kind of blow itself up. And then we'll come in. And then the adults will come in the room, and then we'll do it right. Like, I could just see that. Like, to me, this looks like the setup here. Because you would think, oh, they're pro-crypto. Why aren't they jumping in and building products? I think they want to see this thing kind of collapse, so to speak, and then they can pick up the pieces, and then they can do it. And then again, it'll be like the adults running it. Because this is just like... It's just another example of the credibility of the crypto ecosystem under attack, or legitimately, or being kind of like it's getting discredited. But would again, like, is this really the future of finance? Right? Like, maybe it is. But anyway, let's continue. Austin, obsessed with Tezos on-chain, one of ones at the moment. It's hard to go back once you go on-chain. Indeed. I'm over 100 inscriptions on Bitcoin there. It is a very fun way to work. On chain, you feel great about it. So anyways, here are some works by Austin that Austin has put on chain. So GIFs at that, by the way. So very cool from Austin there. That is on Object. Jeremy Austin, big shout out. Gogolitis. Yesterday, even though I had no idea how to do it, who of course I follow, I managed to create an add-on for Chrome and Firefox for a website I'm working on. I mean, an add-on. That sounds like one of these things. That's amazing. It's just incredible. I mean, so thank you, Grok3. I actually canceled my ChatGPT subscription after I saw Gogolitis mention that. This is also interesting. ERTDFG, whatever. Art on contract. Last year, I wrote an interactive tool. So this is last year. I wrote an interactive tool to generate ASCII art for titles XYZ series of smart contracts. Look at this tool. So again, I'm sure you could do this with AI as well. So, and look at how like detailed, you know, different pattern modes and everything. And you can start to mix things together. As we're seeing with waffles, you can start to get novel results. Let's continue. Nicholas Dietrich, details of a new piece coming tomorrow to coincide with the blood moon. So let's see where this is released. I'm like, ooh, is Nicholas Dietrich going to release something on Bitcoin? Let us see. Kyle Flemmer, Microcosmos Pico series is almost ready. 10 on-chain artworks, 10 microprocessor displays. Each device holds all 10 works, one main work minted per display, in real exhibition and public sale incoming. So let's see if we can see this. Looks pretty cool, doesn't it? So interesting solution too for these square works, putting the title underneath, I believe. And pretty cool displays there. I think maybe homemade displays. Look how cool those look. So kind of ready for a gallery, isn't it? Pretty cool there. Peterson's working on a glitch portrait of Allen Ginsberg. So just in the studio here, as you see these analog video glitch artists, how impressive. It's like these synth studio, these techno artists with their like 50,000 synths. Visual synths. Very cool. Jake Studios, I don't want to be remembered. I kind of loved how counterintuitive that was as a statement for an artist. And so here, Jake Studios showing, and I think this is the clown house, as Jake Studios called it in the work. We're going to see the work later. And so here, I'm going to kind of speed this up a little bit. So anyways, and there's the work. We're actually going to see it later this show. Here's eBoy Arts. New eBoy Astral Shards art print comes in a frame. Excuse me. So cool kind of abstract here, I think, or at least crystals by eBoy. So continuing to be interesting over there. That's on Instagram. Rosaceo, finally a print that absorbs criticism. And I mean absorbs your tea spills. Test print on a tea towel. Very cool. Now I wonder if Rosaceo printed that at home, or if that's a pretty impressive for a tea towel. Pretty rich. So again, printing technology is something not to not dismiss. Something to pay attention to. The poets. So this is cool. Canik Zapata. 200 by 200 GIF files. 28 different pieces. This is on Gamma on Bitcoin. And here are some of the works. So kind of low resolution here. Sometimes I think it's worth putting the high-res version on Twitter. In other words, multiply it by 4 and then put it on Twitter just so it gets out a little clearer. But all to say, cool. It's so like messy to make 200 pixel GIF, but I love the pain. So pretty cool. Are we going to get all 28? I don't know if we have time for that. So pretty cool series here on Bitcoin. How much are these? So $33 each, but $80 with fees. Let's check the mempool here pretty quickly. See what's going on here. The Bitcoin mempool. This is, so yeah, so you'd probably want to wait a little bit. So it's a little busy. Generally, you can put it in for 2, and it should, mint out in the next, few hours in theory, but you got to be careful with that because it can also get stuck in the mempool too. So very interesting there. As we get into the works here, Estelle Flores, Boot 7, Open Third Eye. Let's see. This was quite cool. Let's see if we can play this. Cool audio. Cool visuals. Very cool audio. So just cool piece. Boot 7, Open Third Eye. And maybe we'll just leave it at that. But as you can see, maybe we can do a little scrolling here. So cool work from Estelle Flores. To get us started, this is an open edition for 333, only 4 minted so far. So this goes for another 2 days. As we continue, a couple more by Estelle Flores. These are on Rodeo, just really cool kind of pixel art here. So nice big pixels and small pixels. There's just something about it. Kind of looks like a beach, doesn't it? And here's another one. So kind of nice moody pixel artworks from Estelle Flores. That's also on Rodeo. And 15 minted there. And here's Zophie Ogor Corporation. I missed this one. I'm glad to say, though, that Sophie is selling out before I can even get there. Huge fan of her work. And here, kind of, as you see, it's interactive. Just a total original artist here. So you click on it, and Total Corp Death will change colors. So very, very cool work from Sophie Ogor. Here's RJ. A corrupted GIF on a pixel creature created in Fantastic Animals. So not sure the software here, if this is RJ making his own software or if this is a different software. Very cool kind of noise leaving the trace behind here. And these, I was trying to remember the word last night. I think it's a chimera. Taurus strix, so Fantastic Animals. So using different, that almost looks like a leopard skin and a cow or something. We have a few of them here. That's 100 Tezos. Diggy D picking up this one for 100 Tezos. Corrupted GIF, ornithologus. I think it's chimera. So anyways, interesting here too, as you can see. So pretty interesting. Are we seeing tools? It's getting harder to tell. 173 frames. These are one of ones. Palabos. This went to Neon Monk, also for 100 Tezos. So here again, kind of a smaller file. And coolly leaving this kind of non-finito, almost like a painterliness to this GIF. Very cool. Palabos, and here is a chicken with a goat head. Alector Capra, edition of 1 and still available. So pretty interesting work by RJ here. Here's one more. And also still available. So these hybrids, I think it's chimera. Let me just very quickly check. Chimera. Any mythical or fictional creatures with parts taken from various animals. So yeah, chimera, I believe. Capus Noah Spots. So here's Sabato, I believe, on Fantavision, based on the animations here, and bringing the capybaras, I think you call them. And wow, look at how well that's doing. 105 retweets there. So cool animations there. Bite by bit using graphics too. So cool kind of abstract there. This is a one of one, available for 15 Tezos on Object. Here's Gozo, who of course I follow. A couple of beautiful works here. So not sure. I think these are works, I don't think we saw them. Almost looks like an aquarium or something. I don't think we saw these in that verse show. I don't think. So just kind of interesting. Looks like new work here from Gozo. And here is Pete Ritchie, Warmer Than Normal. Beautiful work. I believe this is AI. Quite a large artwork here. Very interesting. So more, look at that. And it almost looks 3D there. Mixed with painting. And very unusual original artwork here. And works as a painting when you just kind of zoom out, which is also interesting. Edition of 1 for 100 Tezos. Here, this is posted by Collector OG. This was a nice one, Evelyn's art, and I think this is just, as it says here, only hand-drawn artworks. So on Avalanche, Tezos, and Solana. Cool artwork here. So I assume this is a digital work here that is hand-drawn, if I'm not mistaken. Anyways, nice piece. Collector's got a good eye, I would say. The Isolationist, Zero Drama. So interesting work here. This is on Object, and a little more color to the mix. Often doing these kind of profile busts, headshots, so to speak. Interesting colors in the background there too. From the Isolationist, 400 Tezos edition of 1. Here is Enigmatris, Ivy Leaves. So cool, more kind of Petsky, ASCII art here, as you can see. Combining visual ASCII, the original. I don't know if the original is here, actually. It looks like it's all visual ASCII and ASCII text. All to say, interesting piece. from Enigmatris. Here is Cider, Majestic Wallpaper. Hilarious title. So there's some sort of meme going around with J.D. Vance in the face and it being put on everything. And so here it looks like we have the Cider mix of J.D. Vance. So hilarious. This was cool. This is older. How are we doing for time here? We got 15 minutes. Excellent. Ebzer Deity. This is an older work from Tuhanzilla, who I will make sure I'm following there on object.com. Sometimes that'll unfollow you if you already follow them, but I don't think I follow them. Nice contrast here. It looks like a digital collage, and I'm telling you, there's something about these Disney characters that just seem to work. Like we saw it also with the AI Mickey, remember? And here, I mean, I guess here what's going on, and I brought up this older work, it's Donald Duck, I guess it's the contrast of the cartoon, which is just kind of flat, and then you have this kind of, detailed depth 3D-ness here, and then taking out the color here too. Really beautiful juxtaposition. This is an edition 01. This sold how long ago? These are both, only a month ago. From Seriously Casual. I followed Tuhanzilla on Object this morning, so hopefully keep tabs on that. Here's M. Suksu, picked up by Daggy D for 115 Tezos. So Daggy D continuing to massively support these artists here, which is totally awesome. These kind of Barba Papa type worms here in colors, wonderful. Un truco. So beautiful work here from Suksu. Nice sale. Fergeropeza, Lava Clouds. This was interesting. Made with code. Wow. I didn't even know that. Let's see how. So interesting. So made an abstract made with code here. Interestingly. Is that generative? That's an interesting question. I'm not sure if that's generative art. If it's made with code, it's tempting to think of it that way, isn't it? One of one for 35 Tezos. Nice piece. Mumbleboy. They cheered on their friend and celebrated afterwards. Another cool work here. So Mumbleboy continuing to innovate, adding more of these squares into the mix of these collages. So cool contrast here. Again, we're getting that kind of flatness contrasting with the depth. Very interesting work. One of one for 15 Tezos. Here's that work by Jake Studios, MGA Clown Lang Palace. So a bit of a overtly political work here from Jake Studios, and again, a kind of improvisation of sorts here and there. Not sure exactly what's going on here. Kind of a darker piece. Edition of 10 for 267, and Salawaki picking up too. Hilarious. Sumi Reusi, I recognize Suicide, so perhaps a darker work here from Sumi Reusi out of Turkey. Massive, 13,000 by 9,000 pixels. And so beautifully painted here, but looking like a bit of a dark work, it's scarily common. And yeah, so anyways, dark piece here from Sumi Reusi. The Myth, Lars the Dirty. So not sure what's going on here from The Myth, but going back to the Ramones, there's a brilliant work by Myth using the Ramones. Do we have time? I'm not sure. So I'm not sure what's going on here. Kind of another one of these characters, part of a series called The Myth. I don't know if we have time. There's some of these old Ramones. We'll see if... No, it doesn't come up. Yeah, there's one with a old Myth with a Ramon shirt. That's awesome. Absolute times the Myth. So really nice. Myth is just ready for all of these corporate collaborations. I don't know what the corporations are waiting for. There are the little homunculi, and there's the Myth. And so nice, big, brilliant yellow background there. Edition of 12. Actually, it's an open edition. 1 Tezos each. 16 hours to go. This is LB on Zora, which was pretty interesting. So creator earnings, 390. I'm like, as you see, market cap, 24-hour volume, looks like pretty good 24-hour volume. The creator only getting $4. So I'm not even sure what's going on. 16 holders, Uniswap pool. So here it is. But anyways, all to say, I thought the work itself was quite brilliant. Taking the Zora logo and then just kind of bouncing it around. Nice and simple. This was cool too. Getting a little bit more here, $23 on this piece, desktop. So I thought this was brilliant too. Brilliant way, like this is very, if you were like a, excuse me, if you're an ad agency, I'd say this is a brilliant solution, both of these. We want to promote our brand. Like, these are brilliant ads, in a sense. Continuing on, Oblivion Fields with another on-chain work, Flash. I love this piece. Let me make sure we have the whole thing. Yeah, so another just beautifully articulated pixel art work here on-chain, playing with those old flashes, I think, and then going right up to the top of the canvas, so to speak. Native aspect ratio 9:16, so not sure, maybe it's just like that. Not sure, I guess it's a black background. Edition of 7, that is sold out. I don't think we saw that last episode. Rad piece there. Here's Francois Gamma with a pretty fun work. In the final stretch here, I thought this was just fun and pretty cool, actually, and very Francois Gamma. That is on Instagram. Here's Anna Wintery, Flower Pattern 08 on Rodeo. So cool pixel art work here, almost like wallpaper or something. Only 2 minted on Rodeo. Here is actually, this is Ugor. I brought up, this is Ugor 1996 de la Creme. I believe this is Ratcloak's brother. Hello. So interesting piece here. It looks like Sonic the Hedgehog, doesn't it? So that is an edition of 10, and that is sold out at 50 cents. So RJ, Deggy D, Rata, Mikey Wilson, OMG, I drawed it. So nice collector base there. Here is Limbo. This is pretty cool. This kind of a variation. Looks like an export, doesn't it, of an early version of something or a later version. It's always interesting. Again, 2-color. Again, you're going, is this the Bitcoin mix? Here's the work I was looking for. Maybe it's because it's right-click dead that I couldn't find it, but I could not find this work the other day. So anyways, here it is on Super Rare. It has bids too, actually. So as we saw here, pixel art kind of laboratory 01, and this was one for $698. So nice work for Brain Dead, right-click dead on Super Rare. Cap'n, who of course I follow, just a beautiful abstract here on post on X, doing wonderfully. Noodler, who of course I follow, White Noise. This was interesting, and let's make sure, see if we can bring it up bigger. So just an interesting, different, kind of a bit more textured, the work here, kind of monochromatic, and we see a pretty interesting waterfall. I'm not sure if these are being minted anywhere. Cool work there. Sakku, Self-Sakku, trying to remember. Progress working on quantum collaborations with not a number. Remember the pronunciation of the end of the name there. Anyways, I thought this looked pretty rad, what they're working on here. Not a number, often doing coding, I think, for the video game aspect of things. Quantum Galactic, so that looks awesome. So very cool there. Here is Ed Woods with a cool piece. I don't know if I know the reference. I assume there is one. But nice. Love the stars in the background, or the asterisks. Very nice. Very retro. And how are we doing? 53 minutes. Here's max capacity. Wow. I thought this was a pixel art. Stable Diffusion, ZX Spectrum, and Python scripts. How interesting. Some more Python scripts. I'm going to have to do a little research here and see what is happening with the Python. We saw Canuck Zapata was the first I saw working with Python. Then we saw Waffles incorporating Python. Now we see max capacity. I wonder what's going on. I'm going to have to do a little research on that. And putting out a few works here. I think they're going for 20 Tezos each. So very interesting there. Here's Element Lee, Frame. Another very interesting work by Element Lee, just 3-4 colors max. Very small, just awesome. Sky Goodman. This is from February 24th. I don't think we saw this. In-game contact, out-game changes. I don't think we saw this, but I love the big chunky pixels that Sky Goodman will put in the background sometimes. And a bit of it looks like a video game landscape or something. Not sure. Edition of 1, and that's sold for 10 Tezos. We may have seen that one before. Renki Seamine. Very interesting piece here by Renki, who continues to innovate here, at least a work a day. Here's March 12th. Here's March 13th. Umegasawa. And just look at that. I don't know if you can see it, but very kind of wide angle canvas. Edition of 10. That's rare. You probably put an offer in if you like that one. Just Calm or Not. This is Bosque Gracia's rad artwork. I picked this one up. This is gorgeous. I can't get enough of this series. And again, the red, monochromatic red, contrasting with the... why am I blanking on the name? Of course, I know this artist, Paul Eluard. It's not Eluard. Why don't we have the name? Why am I blanking on the name? Of course, the impressionist who was with Van Gogh in Tahiti, and Paul Gauguin. Paul Gauguin. We don't even need to look. Jada. We are absorbing all the light, nice, richly textured analog video work here. So that went for 40 Tezos. Nice sale, edition of 1. Here's Nebular. Also video glitch. I think, did we see this one? I'm not sure. Still searching. So cool work here, different colors and nice texture. That looks sold out. So nice work there at 6 Tezos each. And here's Ex Mortal, edition of 11. So another beautiful kind of sunset nature work from Ex Mortal. Different kind of glitch here. It seems endless. And that is sold out at $9.96. So the video glitch continuing to sell quite well. Feels. So interesting animated abstract from Feels, kind of a fuzzy one. 185 retweets, so huge audience there. Here's Max Drecker with some interesting work on Object. So great to see them hanging around. Big response there from Max Drecker, animated abstract. And here's Little Cakes, sound on. Let's see if we can get... I'm never sure about copyright, so I have to always be... I assume it's an AI song. Kind of a wild, crazy video over here. I think this is... kind of an upbeat piece to bring us into the weekend. Thank you, Little Cakes. And look, nice response here too. I think this is on project.daily.xyz. And let's keep going here. Danielle King, Mother. So edgy, I think it's a work on pregnancy, a series on pregnancy. Here's another one, super edgy. And I showed like the kind of more, the ones that aren't going to cause problems for YouTube. Very interesting series from Danielle King, super cool. Look at how beautiful this is. Ilya Moved. Someone posted Ilya Moved and tagged me this. Nice work. I think this is AI, by the way. I suspect that's AI. Here's another one. Also very effective. Yeah, Descartes. Thank you, Descartes. Fiber art and content. I mean, is it fiber? That's my question, because we've seen AI is, I can't tell. Interestingly, Jenny Lee. So this is at Klaus Gallery. This is a pretty cool, so it seems like this person is like a realist, but that does it on super photorealism and works, and has quite a resume. So this is on Instagram here, but I think does it on a very kind of textured canvas and then tries to make it as realistic as possible. Very, very interesting, very different. Here is a local gallery, Haver Klemp Fleisten Schneider. I guess there's an opening tonight. There's a couple of openings tonight. That looks pretty cool. So nice piece there. Let me just see the artist super quick. We only have a minute and a half here. Who is the artist? There it is, Maximilian Kermse. And we have to go fast. This is It's Not Gallery posting Exene Karos. This is a very interesting piece here. In the final, very interesting physical. And we have a minute left. Let's do Jason Frania. Beautiful work there. A lot of interesting works. Yasama Moilov, Unused Heads. So it's really interesting time here on Instagram. Chibran Mendoza. Here's a friend of mine, Maria Nadjanova, who's also on fire here. These are looking great. Here is Thomas Giddens. More just interesting work here. Here's Maria Lundstrom. I can't tell if this looks like it's quite large, but it's hard to tell. Here's Y Masco, Guardian, graphic marker, more just very original sort of art. There's so much art out here. Here's David Hales, big fan of David Hales. And my good friend Cecine Paben on Instagram, Wizard at the Creek. Awesome work. Thank you for joining me. Until next time, take care. Have a great weekend.